Mound Town, or more commonly known as Mounds of the Dead, located in 11B, is not for the weak of heart or the destroyer of keyboards. If you come unprepared, it can be certain death, but if you do come prepared, it can end in absolute glory. Not only yielding some of the best crafter thrall spawns in the game, it's also easy to get yourself up an army of Sumerian berserkers and find yourself the occasional Delincia snow hunter. Today's guide, I'll be going over the awesome loot you can get from this area. It's predominantly crafting thrall spawns, but also mentioning some of those other ones that I often find Delincia at, and a couple of the little surrounding camps. I'm not going to be fighting anyone just for time's sake, but they are usually all aggressive here, and like I mentioned at the beginning, can smack you pretty good. Although not as useful in your hands, these do immense amounts of damage in these guys' hands. Simply taming these guys, you can often get a chance to actually get their star metal weapons. Have they changed the mace's look? The hell? That definitely looked different, didn't it? Maybe I'm tripping. I don't know. Anyway, you can dismantle the tamed thrall's weapons and get up a bunch of star metal really easily. You are more commonly to find it off tier 2 and greater, but tier 1s can sometimes. We'll be starting off at this kind of central mound, often known as the second mound or small main mound or mound B. We can immediately find a smelter spawn and an armorer spawn. A bit further down, a tanner, a fighter. We've got ourselves a named sorcerer, some nonsense we can pick up. And because these thralls are so high level as a crafter thrall, they are definitely beneficial because now thralls can take damage. You can find yourself a repair hammer. Very nice. So yeah, even if they're a crafter, if you place them out, they might get messed up if someone is to raid your base. So you definitely want to have a bit better of a thrall than not. On the outside here, we can find an archer. It is a very good place for getting bark. Is it this building that has the box on top? It must be the other one. Occasionally, these wandering fighters will be Delincias, so do watch out. Very rarely they're berserkers also. Around on this outside, we can find some dancer spawns and a random thing spawn. We have a smelter here, but it can be anything. It can be a dancer. I found 2 Lionellis here before. And this one over here can be Lionelli, who is the best dancer in the game if you want a named dancer, following you around as a companion. If you just have them at home, you might as well get a tier 1, to be honest. They'll kill you corruption regardless. Might be a bit slower, but it will be done. But also again, like if you get a higher level one, they will have better effort at defending your base. Going down this bridge first, we'll find this little cubby. In here, we'll find a fighter that's sometimes Delincia. A fairly decent loot box. We are here now. Also on the way out, we'll find our recipe cooking 3. Definitely touch that if you want to learn the cleansing brew. Around on this outside area, we will also find a Ymir priest. It's only a tier 1. Back in the day, a tier 2 would even summon a god, but I'm fairly sure they've fixed that. We are going to head over this little bridge towards this mound. We can also find a dedicated taskmaster spawn in this area. Although he's not of the Forgotten tribe, he's actually a relic hunter, so he does have a little bit lower health than Marn the Breaker, who is our taskmaster we can find here. We also have some jailers and their cages, so you have a decent chance of getting something out of there. A little box. Dismantle all of these things for some steel. The cook that's wandering about that I was about to mention, sometimes he's behind this hut. We also have some alchemical decorations if you don't have that already. A fighter that can sometimes be Delincia, but it's usually a tier 3. I've never seen these wandering guys be anything lower than a tier 3. But if you kill them, you are also likely, I have like no points in anything. You are also likely to get some of this Sumerian armor, but also the Spectre's coating. So if you put this on your weapon, it's going to do increased damage to these blue skeletons that are wandering around everywhere. Or pretty much any skeleton. And these guys are worth killing not only for levels, but also drop some cool alchemical related nonsense. And if you are leveling still, hit up these mushrooms, as for some reason they give a lot of XP. And there's a butt ton of them around here. It probably is more worth your while if you're in this area anyway to just go up to the black guys, but if you are just cheesing things, do that. Okay, there's mound again. Head on over the bridge. They're now here. Over here has changed a little bit since they added the jailer and its cage. We'll find a bearer, a fighter, a jailer, and this guy, we used to be able to find a taskmaster here, but now we can't. Actually not sure if there's a taskmaster spawn here anymore. Surely there is. Yeah, you probably want to bring a pick and get a whole lot of the dried bark and insulated wood. No, dry wood turns into insulated wood. Now that was the hut that we started at, so now we want to go to the big hut or main hut or hut A or whatever you refer to it as. You can also find midnight blue flowers around this area if you have been looking for them for dye or whatever for some reason. Starting off here, we can find a armorer who can be work of the Lost Tribe. They are a shieldwright, one of the better armorers. Unless you're looking for like the repair kits and stuff and you need a tempersmith, they do not spawn here. You can only find an edgesmith and a temperite. This can be Valfleys. We're now in this hut. And just here we can find the chicken emote. Not quite as good as the chicken dance because you do have to keep doing it. It's still that if you didn't get the chicken dance on the battle pass. A couple of fighters usually wandering around or archers. They're usually low level, easy to pick off and try and get their weapons to dismantle as they tame really quickly and then you just abandon them or break bonds. Going into the main hut, well actually before we do, there is a box on top as well as one down here underneath. Got a obsidian skinning knife, very nice. Inside we can find another Valfleys spawn or blacksmith spawn, another bearer spawn. If you get the named bearer from around here, very good because they have the most health and are also quite a decent fighter if you are following. Another fighter spawn. And we've got another sorcerer. Bunch of sorcerers in here, so that's worthy. We have another recipe, which is recommend to get also. These wandering fighters can be tier 1s, but they can also be Delincias. So that was a good example. She looks a lot like a tier 1, and when sneaking up on you, it's not ideal. So do watch out for her. There's another fighter spawn up this bridge. I found several Delincias just wandering around here all at once, and if that happens to you, it can equal pretty good death. Behind this hut, we will find another box. In front of the hut, we will also find another box. One of the few boxes that didn't get upgraded to a steel box. That's some free star metal there or a very heavy, unnecessary repair hammer. If you're doing a lot of repairing, then you probably do want that. In this hut here, we can find a carpenter spawn. Boop. That's everywhere here at the main mounds. We started off at this mound, made our way over here, then over here where we found the cook wandering around, wandered over to this island for some wandering fighters, over here for another jailer, and ooh, found a named bearer, look out. That's the Rutherus the Burdened, he's the other named, actually the Featherfeet might be the Nordheimer one to be fair. But yeah, definitely get this guy if you see them. Then we headed over to our main hut where we can find a lot of those shieldwright and edgesmith spawns. Well, 2. Other things you can do in the area, if you have a single piece of demon blood, you can go do the Burrow King and get even more demon blood and some thick hide. Very well worth doing if you're just waiting for stuff to respawn. And if you're playing on official, you're probably going to need all that demon blood anyway. And the polearm has a pretty cool effect that most pikes don't do. I do have a separate guide on the Burrow King. Check that out. If you haven't already, definitely touch the obelisk because that'll enable you to get back here quickly. If you're on a multiplayer server, you'll often find map rooms placed around, or it's very easy to place your own. We can also find a brewing recipe right here, where we can also find a pretty amusing story. Pause to read. If you are looking for Red Lotus, this is where you can acquire it. Back in the day, we used to be able to grind it up and eat the ground bits, 5 of them at a time, and it acted like alcohol. When we got drunk, it gave us 3 strength and 3 vitality perk. They've since removed that buff from alcohol because I couldn't tell you why. And pretty sure you can still eat the powder. It still gets you drunk, but it doesn't do any buff. You can turn it into potions though. And as you can see, many dried trees. If you're playing with mods like Iwa and Game Extended Weapons Arsenal or whatever it stands for, you might need to come find a Braga. Otherwise, he'll just give you a fun little story. We can also find the spit emote from the Arachne's journal. It's quite an amusing little journal set. I have the whole bit that I've gone through and read. Very amusing. We've also got a couple of the other journal series if you fancy listening to some random lore, read by a random Australian woman. I mentioned earlier the amanita mushrooms you can find here out the woozer. So if you are making things like roast mushrooms for your thrall's food on that taming wheel, good place to come get that, and good levels for you if you are not leveled already. Also, lots of Adrian. If you wish to make bread in your furnace, you will need to add this in with seeds and grass, and preferably some other fuel, otherwise it'll just burn your grass. And you can also find some yellow lotus and more of that midnight flower. There's also a secret recipe you can find here if you kill a whole bunch of stuff in Sequestration and get some of their treasures, known as the Pride of a Seer armor. I have a separate guide going through all of that, but we can come over here once you get all of it and talk to a little ghosty dude and get a recipe. There's also a couple of boxes out in here. Where's the box in here? Over here. Building materials, lots of skeletons. Lots of red lotus. Red lotus is also good levels if mined, so you might as well hit all of that up even if you don't need it. If you are leveling with the mushrooms and lotus, you will get to level 60 very quickly. And these trees are decent because for some reason harvesting is just OP until they change that inevitably. Over here we can find a one-skulled skeleton boss who will pop out of the ground usually and attack you, but you need his recipe bits. There's some boxes in here well worth getting. I believe a box on the outside too. Yes. There, and over on this outside edge near the second ring. Used to be able to get a whole bunch of Nordheimer armor from killing the skeletons because I have a guide on leveling in this area doing the lotus and the mushroom technique. Unfortunately, you no longer get that off killing these dudes, but you do get some pretty worthy loot and they are good XP. They are usually wandering around, but because I am in creative mode flying, they are not popping out. Some more red lotus. And oh, there's one just wandering around. Every now and then a couple of them do wander. You can build on this little area. Very few places in the mound, apart from in this water, you can actually build. If we head this way, we can find a Stargazer's crest. Every now and then you can find a Delincia up here. Oh, where are we over here? You can also find a random thrall spawn, so it could have that work of the Lost Tribe, but it could have any other crafting thrall. We've got a smelter there. This can be Delincia. We also have a jailer and another cage. So there are at least 3 cages worth of thralls you can get. A box that often has a fairly decent bow in it. Once upon a time, they messed up and made all of these boxes drop legendary bows. And every now and then there's an event called Into Darkness where it's all black here and you've got to kill a sorcerer to make that go away. Whether that will be coming back, who knows with the current state of the game. I also find this particular area one of the easiest to come get some sneaky star metal and early game black ice, because coming up this way you actually don't get too much frostbite. But most of the time you can find some spicy food or go visit one of the merchants down in Sepumeru. Where are we? Near Westwall Prison that sells the spiced pork. You should be able to get around here just fine. But a lot of star metal does often hit here. And those boxes down there did drop some fire orbs. And you can use fire orbs to dismantle the star metal. You will need something greater than hardened steel to hit the star metal. Although things that are lower than hardened steel, like a steel pick, will no longer destroy it. It just won't harvest it. Coming up this way, a couple of annoying goats. But then we'll find a little bit of black ice. We just need a little bit to build a fridge or whatever. There you are. There are also more chunks over this way and some ice. We can also find a blood crystal golem, which is a good way to get up some blood crystal in the area. He's usually around here somewhere. Oh, and there he is. We've even got some star metal. Always kill these guys and harvest them when you see them, as well as their rock nose variant, because that blood crystal will give you the ability to go visit a guy at Mechamosis' Spire, trade that in and get a lot of demon blood, alchemical base, gold and silver ore, steel fire, definitely worthy for the farm. And just over the ledge is where we can learn Ymir if you have not learnt him yet. He's a bit tricky to talk to when you're flying. And a little box with some food, I believe. Well, some food, but also some weapons. Random black ice. All around this area, there are a lot of saber cats, hence why I usually come up from that back way rather than up this path around this area. But those saber cats can sometimes actually be baby spawns. So if you are after some saber cat babies and you don't fancy getting them in the Jabulsag dungeon for some reason, because they're guaranteed spawns, you can come try your luck with these guys around here. Today, no babies. But probably death if you're not prepared. They're not quite as psycho as they used to be health-wise, but they still hit like a sack of bricks. If you're interested in harvesting a lot of stone, this area also has a lot of stone, a little bit of hops too. And we will find another little camp and some metal and some coal. It's pretty decent farming area all around. You get a lot more resin from harvesting the trees up north too for some reason. I guess they're more resinous. Heaps of metal. Come use Mascal here. Not quite as good as a volcano, but you get metal too. And you can always make your way over to God's Claw really quickly from here and do little alternate runs. This spot here is going to give us a bearer spawn, a archer, an alchemist, and a fighter. Around the back, we will also find a box full of treasures. Up the hill from there, we will find some pony spawns. Not actually ponies, they're foals. Completely, horses and ponies are not the same thing. But get these if you want to get yourself some horses. It is probably one of the more effort spawns to get yourself a foal. But there you are. I have a separate guide on where to get all the different type of mounts from horses, camels, rhinos, you name it. Actually don't have all of the rhino spawns in there, but it mentions enough. So check that out, linked in the about section or the pinned comment. Other things to do in the area. Heading over this way, we'll find King's Niche. I again have a separate video on this. You can find a 3-skulled skeleton boss in there that drops some nice heals and a lot of skeletons out here that are good XP. Well, you try not to get clusterfucked by them, that is. And they also have some fairly decent loot on them, sometimes even dragon powder. Not that one though. Somebody give me good loot, dang it. I've like jinxed it now for myself. That one gave me nothing. Trust me, they can have very good loot in them, but regardless, see there we go, some padding. They can also have the advanced padding. You can get an emote here as well as a bit more of that Arachne's journal. That is here in 10B, King's Niche. A little bit across the valley from there, we can find a 3-skull group boss as well as a little ghosty scene of the archivist getting murked. Right behind, we will find the Groot giant, bunch of wolves, a couple of tablets on either end if you really want a story. There's one here, but there's also one all the way over here too. Different types, one's a Lemurian, one's a Giant King's Lore tablet. That spot's at Circle of Swords. One of my favorite little animations that they have of the ghost scenes because I quite like how the tower's all reconstructed on the swords and stuff. Anyway, I digress. It's starting again. And just in case you don't know, killing those 3-skull bosses usually give a legendary key, and you want to hold all of those up for when you are doing the bigger dungeons that have legendary key boxes in them. You can often find a lot of baby pig spawns in this area and sometimes 1-skull pigs. If you're doing the Freya quest, you do need to kill a 1-skull pig. Coming up over here, we'll find baby pigs all of the time. Where are you, baby pigs? Don't make a liar of me. I didn't go far enough up. There are the baby pigs. And there are some bizarre skins for the pigs now, so if you just want them around your base for some decor, they're pretty cool. Right near here, we can also find a really nice base location, although usually taken up on multiplayer. If you're on single player or new to the game, you may never have stumbled upon it. It's a really big cave called the Crevice, though there are technically 2 crevices about. Lots of coal and rock and metal in this area, good for mining, good for farming, good for building a base. Huge entrance. It does take a lot to build up and usually is bigger tribes in here. Probably don't tackle it if you're solo unless, well, building materials are pretty easy to get these days with the dismantling bench and all that and just the general drop of them everywhere. There's another entrance over this way which will lead us to the bear catapult. Ooh. It's not really a bear catapult, it's just a trebuchet ghost scene hitting a tower that now has a bear in it. I made that sound like a little bit cooler than it was, but I also really enjoy this ghost scene. Go back up into the hidden little hole here. Next door, there's also another cave that's a bit hidden by a rock. You can dismantle this rock, dismantle, harvest, and open up the pathway through. This main area is generally where people build, and you can do a pretty decent hanging base all up amongst here. Although I highly recommend lining your base in case people do tend to mesh. There is a problem with people being able to go through foundations anyway with different hacking clients, and Funcom doesn't seem fit to fix that. So there's a chance that you'll lose your shit no matter where you build, no matter where you play on multiplayer or PvP. Don't think people do it on single player, but fuck me, I don't know, maybe. This mod, if built right, will fit perfectly a Greater Wheel of Pain or a map room. I've done it very nice before. I like this whole spot. You come up here and kind of get this hole. A lot of good little nookie spots to build all up on this side of the crevice mountain itself, and it does have a really high peak. That is quite a bitch to get to, although people can always trap you. If they don't have the fog disabled, which you should probably do, I just haven't been bothered to do it since I reinstalled the game again. Down here on the other side, we kill this goat and we can get a goat bone bow. Not a very good bow, but there's always that. And another nice flat building area. Then we start getting all up into crazy snow. And that's all for another guide. It's pretty much everything I find of note in the area around Mounds of the Dead and Mounds of the Dead itself. I do hope this has helped you get a little bit more familiar with what loot you can get there and what type of thralls and where to find them. And a couple of building spots and other factoids chucked in along the way. If you did like this content, smash that like button. If you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing. It means a bunch. Stick around for one of those other guides I mentioned, or check out another guide on Conan Exiles. Until next time, I hope you have an excellent day, evening, night, morning, whatever it may be, wherever you may be. Have a good one.